Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tell you a story that starts quietly, almost like any other ordinary day, but slowly unfolds into something powerful, emotional, and unforgettable. It's a story about courage, kindness, and how a single moment can change the lives of many people in ways no one could ever imagine. It was still early in the morning when Daniel Carter locked the door of his small apartment. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the staircase smelled faintly of old wood and dust, but it was home. Daniel adjusted the strap of his worn backpack and looked down at his daughter, Lily, who was holding his hand tightly. Lily was 8 years old, with curious eyes and a smile that seemed too bright for the hard life they lived. Ever since her mother passed away 3 years earlier, it had just been the two of them. Daniel worked long hours as a mechanic, fixing cars for people who rarely noticed him, just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. That morning, Daniel had promised Lily breakfast at a small cafe near the bus stop. It wasn't fancy, just a place with chipped mugs and old tables, but Lily loved it because the owner always gave her an extra biscuit. As they walked down the street, Lily chatted about school, about a drawing she had made, and about how she wanted to be a doctor one day so she could help people. Daniel smiled and listened, feeling that familiar mix of pride and worry. He wanted to give her the world, but sometimes even giving her the basics felt like a struggle. They were almost at the cafe when Lily suddenly stopped walking. Her hand tightened around Daniel's, and her cheerful voice went quiet. Daniel looked down, concerned. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Lily didn't answer right away. Instead, she pointed across the street. Near a bus shelter, a young woman was on the ground, curled up and crying. Two men stood over her, shouting angrily. One of them grabbed her arm roughly, while the other laughed in a way that made Daniel's stomach turn. People passed by, some slowing their steps, others pretending not to see. "No one stopped, Daddy," Lily whispered, her eyes wide and filled with fear and confusion. "Please help her." Daniel's heart started pounding. He knew he should be careful. He was just one man, and those two looked aggressive. He thought about Lily, standing right beside him. He thought about what could happen if things went wrong. But then he looked back at the woman on the ground, heard her sobbing, and felt something deep inside him refuse to let him walk away. "Stay right here," Daniel said softly, crouching down to Lily's level. "Don't move, okay?" Lily nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Daniel took a deep breath and crossed the street. As he approached, one of the men turned and sneered. "Mind your own business," he snapped. The other man tightened his grip on the woman's arm, causing her to cry out in pain. "Let her go," Daniel said, his voice steady despite the fear rushing through him. "Whatever this is, it's over." The men laughed. "And who's going to make us?" one of them said, stepping closer to Daniel. Daniel didn't answer with words. He acted. Years ago, before life had worn him down with responsibilities and loss, Daniel had trained in boxing. He hadn't stepped into a ring in a long time, but muscle memory doesn't forget. When the first man swung at him, Daniel blocked the punch and countered with a quick, controlled strike that sent the man stumbling back. The second man rushed forward, but Daniel moved fast, using his weight and balance to knock him down. The entire encounter lasted less than a minute. The two men, shocked and bruised, scrambled to their feet and ran off, shouting threats as they disappeared down the street. Daniel turned to the woman, his hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded through her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't know what to do. I thought no one would help me." Daniel helped her up and made sure she wasn't seriously hurt. Just then, Lily ran over and wrapped her arms around her father's waist. Daniel held her close, feeling both relief and fear crash over him at the same time. The woman introduced herself as Emma. She explained that she had recently moved to the city for a new job and had been followed after leaving work late. She thanked Daniel again and again, her voice trembling with gratitude. After making sure Emma could get home safely, Daniel and Lily continued on to the cafe, though neither of them felt much like eating anymore. the rest of the day passed quietly. Daniel went to work, Lily went to school, and life seemed to return to its usual rhythm. But somewhere across the city, the story of what had happened that morning was already beginning to travel. The next day, Daniel was under a car at the garage, wiping grease from his hands, when his boss called his name. "Daniel, there's someone here to see you," he said, sounding confused. Daniel frowned. He didn't expect anyone. When he stepped into the front office, he froze. Standing there, dressed in an elegant suit, was Emma. But she looked different now. Confident. Composed. And beside her stood an older man with sharp eyes and a calm, commanding presence. "Daniel," Emma said with a smile. "I was hoping I'd find you." Daniel glanced at the man beside her. "Can I help you?" he asked cautiously. The older man stepped forward and extended his hand. "My name is Richard Hayes," he said. "I'm the CEO of Hayes Global Industries." Daniel shook his hand slowly, his mind racing. Hayes Global Industries was one of the biggest companies in the country. I don't understand," Daniel said. Emma took a deep breath. "The woman you helped yesterday," she said softly. "That was me. And Richard is my father." Daniel's eyes widened. He looked from Emma to Richard, still trying to process what he was hearing. "My daughter told me what happened," Richard continued. "She told me how you stepped in when no one else would. How you protected her, even though you had nothing to gain and everything to lose." Daniel shrugged, feeling uncomfortable with the attention. "Anyone would have done the same," he said. Richard shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "Not everyone would. I've built my life around numbers, strategies, and power. But yesterday, I was reminded of something far more important. Character." Emma stepped closer. "I couldn't stop thinking about your daughter," she said. "About how she asked you to help me. That kind of compassion doesn't come from nowhere." Daniel felt a lump form in his throat. He thought of Lily, of her small voice saying, "Please help her." He hadn't realized how much that moment would echo beyond that street corner. Richard cleared his throat. "I won't insult you by offering you money as a reward," he said. "But I would like to offer you an opportunity. We're opening a new division in this city, and I need people I can trust. People who do the right thing even when it's hard." Daniel listened in silence as Richard explained the job. It was a stable position, with benefits, a salary far beyond what Daniel earned at the garage, and flexible hours that would allow him to spend more time with Lily. "I don't know if I'm qualified," Daniel said honestly. Richard smiled slightly. "Qualifications can be taught," he said. "Integrity cannot." Daniel went home that evening with his head spinning. Lily sat at the small kitchen table, coloring, when he told her about the visit. Her eyes lit up. "Is the lady okay?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel said, kneeling beside her. "She's okay." Lily smiled. "I'm glad you helped her, Daddy." That night, after Lily fell asleep, Daniel sat alone in the quiet apartment. He thought about how close he'd come to walking away that morning. How easy it would have been to tell himself it wasn't his problem. And how one small act of courage, inspired by his daughter's kindness, had opened a door he never even knew existed. A week later, Daniel accepted the job. Life didn't magically become perfect overnight, but it changed in ways that mattered. He moved Lily to a better school. They found a brighter apartment with a small balcony where Lily could grow plants. Daniel still worked hard, but now he came home earlier, tired in a good way, knowing he was building something stable for his daughter. Months passed, and Daniel stayed in touch with Emma. They talked occasionally, sharing stories and laughter, bonded by a moment that had forever connected their lives. Richard, true to his word, treated Daniel with respect, often seeking his input and valuing his honesty. One evening, as Daniel tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at him and asked, "Daddy, do you think helping people really changes things?" Daniel smiled and brushed her hair back gently. "Yes," he said softly. "I think it changes everything. And that's the heart of this story." A single dad, a little girl, and a simple plea to help someone in need. No cameras, no applause, just a choice. A choice that led to justice, opportunity, and a reminder that the world can still be shaped by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because you never know who might need to hear a reminder that kindness and courage still matter. And sometimes, all it takes to change a life is listening to a small voice that says, "Please help her."